What's up, Barnhill family, and welcome back to the channel.
Yo.
So the rematch that everybody has been waiting for Petr Yan versus Aljamain Sterling. All the controversy surrounding the first fight. I mean, Aljo was getting absolutely dealt with by Yan, and then Yan throws that egregious illegal knee, and Aljo literally goes from being unconscious to being the undisputed world champion. And I got to be honest, Aljo has really embraced this whole situation and handled it very well. I mean, nobody really believes that he was the better man that night. It was clear for everybody watching that he wasn't. And nobody wants to win a UFC belt under those circumstances. But I got to be honest, that post he put up on Instagram with the rule book, hysterical. I think he's handling this as well as anybody could handle it.
Yeah, and there, so many times we look at these fighters that get their crowning moment, and it's such an accomplished feeling. It looks like Brandon Moreno comes to mind when he won that title. You can just see it. He really all that work, and it was rewarded with a UFC gold belt. It felt like the complete polar opposite of that when Aljamain Sterling got the belt wrapped around him. And I understand that there are more than one ways to win and more than one ways to lose a fight. You've got your submissions, you've got your knockouts, you've got your decisions, and then you have your disqualifications.
Yeah.
And he unfortunately got that one, and it doesn't seem to be like one that you would, cherish or celebrate quite like the others, but it is technically still a win, and I felt bad for Aljo because he's just like everybody else, put all that work in, all that time in, sacrificed everything, and he does get to the top. He does get the gold, but he almost feels like he'd rather not even have it. It's worse than losing it.
It's the equivalent of the second place guy in the 100-meter dash getting dusted by Usain Bolt, but then they go back and check the tape, and Usain's foot for a split second, 1 millimeter of his shoe went in the other guy's lane, and so they disqualify him and give it to you. It's like, I didn't really beat him. The whole world saw him leave me in the dust, and so it's kind of a weird place to be because you are technically and realistically the undisputed world champion, but heavy on the word disputed as far as undisputed goes. But it's one of those things where I think Aljo has handled it as well as he can, and I do believe that he's going to come out a different fighter in this rematch. I mean, just take one look at the guy right now. He looks big. He looks shredded. He looks like he's taking this fight very seriously. We even saw him at one point in time cut the Dagestani chin strap beard in, which was a funny look for Aljo. He kind of abandoned it after a few days. He realized it didn't quite work for him. But, I think we're going to see Aljo try to go for what his bread and butter is. I think you look at Petr Yan, one of the best Muay Thai skill sets that the UFC has to offer right now. Relentless, ruthless striking, very, very lethal on the feet. But he is only a blue belt in jiu-jitsu. He doesn't have that deep wrestling pedigree like some of the other Russian fighters that we've come to love over the last couple of years. So I think Aljo is going to just go to that American freestyle wrestling and try to finish this fight early. I think that's the only way he's got a chance to win this fight is when they're not sweaty, when he still has tons of energy. He's got to shoot, reshoot, and reshoot. Get Yan on the ground, who's going to be the smaller fighter, do some real damage early on, and potentially even look for a submission in those early rounds. That's the only chance I could see him winning this fight.
Yeah, and Aljamain must have gone back and watched that fight back many, many times, probably more than anybody else with his team, and that can be rough to do, because he's watching a fight that he clearly lost, and he was losing really, really badly. Obviously, the illegal knee ended things early, but we were into the fourth round when that happened.
Yeah.
So you got to see him just slowly start to get caught in the Petr Yan wave, and that was pretty scary, because when you have a guy who unloads the gas tank in the first round like Aljamain did and has nothing left, and now he's got to basically just be locked in a cage with a guy whose gas tank only seems to be going up. It's a frightening feeling, and gassing out is honestly like the scariest thing you can do in the cage. Like, you'd rather be honestly taken down to the ground because you can at least find some breath there. You can chill. But Petr Yan was making him look silly with some of those trips, some of those sweeps. The striking is ridiculous, and he was able to negate a lot of that wrestling that Aljamain was trying to start. So I personally think that it's a high risk, high reward type of situation for Aljamain Sterling. He's going to have to come aggressive like he did the first time, but it's not going to be aggression with the striking. It's going to have to be aggression with wrestling.
Yeah.
And that can leave you pretty gassed. So it is a risky play, but it is, in my opinion, the smarter thing he can do, because if he goes out there and tries to strike with him again, Petr Yan's really good at staying shelled up with his defense and countering, and he'll let you gas yourself out while he's just playing defense. And he might even lose the first round because you're just being more active and he's being more defensive, kind of like a Floyd Mayweather in the early parts of a round. Like Conor McGregor clearly won the first round against Floyd Mayweather because Floyd Mayweather was just letting him throw his arms out a little bit and playing a lot of defense. That, to me, is what Petr Yan does so well. He'll let you throw all that stuff. You want to come throw jumping knees, I'll just keep moving back, keep my hands up, keep my face safe, and that's exactly what he did in the first fight. It makes for a gassed opponent in the second round, and leading on to that, it can be very, very dangerous. So I am going to assume that Aljamain Sterling's going to try to go back to that Corey Sandhagen style performance.
Yeah.
Get a hold of him early, get him down on the ground, and just show him the experience that he's got with the wrestling and the jiu-jitsu, more in particular the jiu-jitsu, because I think he's got a better chance of submitting him than he does holding Yan down for every round.
Yeah, I would totally agree with that. I would say Aljo's submission skills are good enough to submit Petr Yan. I think if the two of them were to do a grappling contest against one another, Aljo would not have a very difficult time finding a submission. And so what he's got to do is he's got to turn it into exactly that. Petr Yan's going to be a little bit like a fish out of water here. He doesn't have his team. A lot of his coaches were not able to get visas. They're not over here in the States right now. He's going to be a little bit out of sorts in that regard. And I think the best chance that Aljo has is to come in early. And because you said it perfectly, Yan is very economical with his striking, and he's never out of place. Like you don't ever find Yan with his chin hanging out in the open, hands down. He's always, if he's in striking range, he's very disciplined. Hands up, shelled up. He'll let you strike yourself out. He'll let you get tired. So what Aljo's got to do here, and every fighter who comes into a fight comes in with a certain amount, a finite, defined amount of gas in the tank. Some have better gas tanks than others because some work harder than others. Aljo's got a decent gas tank, but it does require a lot of energy. But I think it's smart energy to expend for Aljo. He's got to say, look, I'm going to come out, and in the first round, I'm going to unload half the tank, and I'm going to try to submit this guy. And just like the Sandhagen fight, try to get him out of there early while he's still sticky. There's no sweat on either one of us, because what's going to happen if that doesn't happen is you're going to see an ugly striking clinic, and you're going to see Petr Yan beating the hell out of Aljamain Sterling as the rounds go on. I'm actually going to surprise a lot of people here. I think Aljo's going to get the job done. I think that game plan can work, and I think he's good enough to implement it. I'm going to call a second round submission for Aljamain Sterling, as crazy as that sounds.
Yeah, I was thinking the only way he's going to win this fight is a first or second round submission. And if he doesn't get it done there, it's going to start to really turn in the favor of Petr Yan. I'm going to go with Petr Yan, and I think that Peter's just showed us way too much in that first fight. He showed us exactly how defensive he is when he needs to be, and how crazy his offense is. His offense is some of the best that we've seen in MMA, especially on the feet. He's really, really tenacious, really calculated with his striking. He's at the same level as a Rafael Fiziev. You know, Fiziev kind of gets touted a little bit more as a Muay Thai striker, but Petr Yan is every bit the same Muay Thai striker that he is. He's just also such a well-rounded MMA fighter that he doesn't quite get that same accolade, but he make no mistake about it, he's just as good. And it's really, really impressive to see him stay so disciplined to his craft. It's amazing to see a Muay Thai striker who is a blue belt. Obviously, when you're an MMA blue belt and you're a UFC world champion, your belt's a little bit different. But put all that aside, he's still the absolute best in the world, and that he got there for a reason. He's shown us time and time again that he's able to just dismantle the best fighters in the world. Aljamain Sterling is no different than anybody else. He's going to feel the wrath that he felt once before. I think that after the first or second round, Aljo gets a hold of him a couple times and then he gets free. That first fight's going to start to play back in Aljo's head, and it's going to play mental games with him. It's really not going to bear well in his favor. And I think that we're going to see I don't want to go co-main and main decisions, but I'm kind of leaning towards Volkanovski winning by decision and Petr Yan winning by decision. But both of them pretty lopsided on the scorecards. Unanimous decision. Maybe 49-46, both fights. Petr Yan gets the decision over Aljamain.
Nice call. Well, guys, Nick and I are split on this one, so you know what to do. Hop in the comments and tell us who's right. Have a wonderful day, and we'll see you in the next one.
Peace.